Hi everybody and welcome back to episode 9 of the Vegan Alliance podcast. I've had a really busy, active few weeks since the last podcast, so I'm going to talk about all that in this episode. But firstly, just wanted to let everybody know, people who might be new to the podcast or new to the Vegan Alliance, is that we are a not-for-profit, unofficial organisation. We're not officially registered as a not-for-profit, but we do donate all our funds back to animal rights charities, causes and different groups. And we have a online store which helps us generate some of our funds. It's www.theveganalliance.bigcartel.com. We have a whole range of t-shirts, stickers, jumpers, tank tops, sweaters, all sorts of things. And all the money goes back to helping these various causes. So please have a look at that. And if you're not following us on social media, we're just the Vegan Alliance on Facebook, and we have an Instagram which is at the Vegan Alliance. So that's that. And I did want to say thanks to anyone that is following us on social media so far, or who has for the last year or so since our inception. Managed to hit 10,000 followers on Instagram, which I'm really, really happy about. As I've said in previous podcasts, it's not about getting big numbers to be popular, it's just about spreading awareness. And the more we can get these social media profiles, any social media profile that actually advocates for animal rights, I feel it's a great thing. And the more people that follow these things and help share the posts and whatnot, help create and spread this awareness that we need ultimately to help animals who are suffering in the meat and dairy industries. So quite a lot to talk about this week. First off, I'd probably like to mention what I've personally been up to. Probably 3 weeks ago, we had a live export ship down in Port Adelaide, which is pretty close to my house. I do live in the area. And it was called the Al Shawaik. I think it was a ship from Iraq. And it docked in Port Adelaide at one of the berths that was actually quite accessible. It was quite an accessible berth. Sometimes they dock at berths that are a little bit hard to see them or hard to get close to. And obviously you can't get too close. It is fenced off and it's normally a federal area, so you can't, you can't go past the fence. So we did get quite a good view this time. And myself and Amy, my fiancée, we were down there from the very first day that it arrived. And the first day we got down there, it was boiling hot. It was about 40 degrees. We had going through another heat wave. And when we got down there, the group called the Port Adelaide Monitors, who are a lovely bunch of ladies who are always down and probably have been going down to Port Adelaide for about 6 years now. They go down and basically just monitor the loading and the unloading just to see if there's any sort of mishandling of the animals. They do document it and report that to different media outlets. So we went down and we started, helping them monitor it and talking with the ladies and getting our own photographs and whatnot. And we were down there probably twice a day for about a week. And the reason it went on for about a week is that the first day we got there, they'd started loading. It was 40-degree heat, so you can imagine how hard it was for the animals being, transported with no food or water, then loaded onto a huge ship, terrified, but also boiling hot and completely uncomfortable. So we watched them get loaded. I think it was on I think it might have been on a Wednesday that they were loaded. And then I think there was more loaded on the Thursday because we went down one evening. It was a really hot night. It was probably about 35 degrees still about 9 o'clock at night. And as we were driving down to the port, we were behind a couple of the animal trucks and we pulled up and we got to the side of the trucks as they were pulling in, and we did manage to get some shots and have a chance to at least pat the animals and give them a little bit of love before their horrendous journey and their fate in the Middle East. And it was quite upsetting. I mean, a lot of the animals, the regulations for live export, do sort of stipulate that you have to, the sheep need to be shorn for their journey. They can't be overly woolly for obvious reasons, for comfort. And a lot of them were injured, which also should be something that, warrants the animals not actually being loaded. And so we actually noticed that just from looking inside the trucks that some of these animals were extremely woolly still. Some were shorn. and many of them had cuts and were bleeding, and it was actually quite upsetting. It was very hard to deal with, just like looking at these animals and looking in their faces and just thinking they've got no idea what's going on and are probably so scared, but they actually have no idea what they're about to face when they get to their destination. So it was very, very tough, and we were there sort of day in, day out, and we managed to get over the other side of the river and get some photos from there. And there was lots of people down there taking photos, and obviously a lot of people oppose live export. And so we did spend a lot of time down there. And on the last, it got to about Sunday, or maybe I think they were meant to leave maybe Friday night. They didn't leave on the Friday night. So it got to about Sunday, and we were like, what the hell's going on? These animals were loaded on Wednesday, and now they've been sitting there on this ship with no breeze because it was boiling hot still. It was still in the middle of a heat wave. And we were trying to, get some more information. So we called the RSPCA. And as usual, I have no respect for the RSPCA at all. I mean, I know they started out with sort of good intentions, but now they're just a big corporation, and they don't really have much interest in farm animals. They're more interested in domestic or companion animals. And sure, they might do some good things for them, but when they say respect for all animals, great and small, that's absolute bullshit. They don't give a shit about farm animals. So I would never give $1 to the RSPCA. I think they're a load of crap. And there's way better, much more worthy organisations out there who actually advocate and do things for all animals, great and small. So anyway, we called the RSPCA on multiple occasions and we lodged complaints, and we said, you need to get an inspector on board. You need people to go on there. It's 40 degrees. There's guaranteed to be downed sheep in there, or injured sheep, or sheep suffering from dehydration. It was just sheep being loaded onto the live export ship this time. And the lady who we spoke to just seemed confused. She didn't really know what to do, and she kept saying, we're not really sure if it's our area that we can really interfere with. It's more the Livestock Council that needs to assess these kind of things. And we're like, the Livestock Council, like people who actually have vested interests in live export, are going to monitor whether the animals are okay or not. Of course they're going to say they're okay. They don't give a shit about them because they know they're going to get killed anyway. So it's completely biased, and the RSPCA didn't want a bar of it. And so that was on probably the Saturday or Sunday, we called them. And then a couple of days later, the ship was still there. This was on Tuesday, I think. The ship was still there. And we called them again, and it took us ages to get through, and the same thing. They didn't know what was going on. And then on the Wednesday, there was a flash protest organised by the ladies at Adelaide Against Live Export, the Port Adelaide Monitors. And so we all went down. There was a really good turnout. Probably about 100 people turned out, which was really, really good. And they actually managed to get the media down there, and the media came down, and they actually filmed, I think it was a live broadcast with 100 of us standing in the background with the big ship in the background, actually talking about how long the ship's been here, how hot it's been, how uncomfortable the sheep are, and how no one's really got involved to actually try and assess the situation. And when it ended up getting the all clear from a couple of different bodies, the RSPCA as well. Supposedly they sent an inspector on the ship a week later, but we're not really sure if that was actually confirmed or not. And the time it took them to respond, it was appalling. Like, to me, it just proves they do not give a shit about farm animals. They're a speciesist organisation, and they really just don't care about anything that's not a companion animal. So again, don't give them any money, or never support them. If anyone from the RSPCA ever stops you in the street, just say this to them. Just say, "Oh, you're a vegan, are you?" And as soon as they say no, because none of them are, they're just paid employees of the RSPCA, to say, well, how are you advocating for all animals great and small? And then they'll be stuck. And then you can say, look, I'm a vegan, and I actually give a shit about all animals, and I volunteer and dedicate my time to saving animals all the time without being paid for it. So until the RSPCA is not a speciesist organisation, no thanks. I'm not donating any money to you. So personally, that's where I stand on the RSPCA. I can't stand them. So anyway, the live export ship did manage to leave about a week later, but then it had to stop in Fremantle. Then it was in Fremantle for some period of time, and it's probably only just gotten to the Middle East now. So whatever these animals are facing now, I don't even want to imagine. I mean, being pulled off and loaded onto shoddy trucks, put into car boots, taken to DIY abattoirs, having their throats slit according to halal standards. Halal is just a bunch of crap. It's just a different way for people to kill things by blessing it and actually killing it differently to we do here. What's the difference? If you still kill it, you still kill it. And the way they're doing it is much more inhumane. So halal to me is just a bunch of crap. Everything's a bunch of crap to me, but yeah, there's a lot of things that piss me off. Halal is one of them. So yeah, we did dedicate a lot of time to live export, and we did actually have a fair input in what was going on down there, and there's going to be more ships. The port is always got live export ships coming into it. You can actually track them. There's if you go on the Flinders Port website, you can actually track the ships, and you can see what ships where and what ships are coming in. We've got a whole list of ships that actually frequent the ports, and it's not just Adelaide. There's ports all around Australia. Adelaide's probably the most accessible. A lot of the other ports you can't even get close, but Adelaide there's public roads everywhere, so you can go down and actually monitor them. Just to name a few, I've got a list here of a few of the ships that actually do frequent our waters. The Awasi Express, the Al Misalia, the Gaina, the Mysora, the Beta 3, the Ocean Fight, the Dareen, the Devon Express, the Diamantina, the Falconia, the Finola, the Galloway Express, the Nada, and the Lincoln Express. So if you want to check up on Flinders Ports or any of the marine traffic websites, look for any of those ships. I'm not sure if I said the names correctly, but you can check it out yourself. Or you can email me for more information on the Vegan Alliance 618@gmail.com, and I will do my best to help you. You can also go to marinetraffic.com. That's probably got a fair bit of information just nationally. Flinders Port's probably more based in South Australia, where I am. Talking about South Australia, I want to talk about ag-gag laws. Ag-gag laws are laws that basically try and gag activists from exposing anything that an industry doesn't want you to expose. And in relation to animal rights, these ag-gag laws came into place in the US a few years ago, and basically I guess they came in as a result of a lot of the animal rights activity that was going on, a lot of the Animal Liberation Front activity, the liberation of animals from fur farms, a lot of the destruction by animal rights activists. There was a lot of burning down of leather factories. There was a lot of burning down of restaurants that sold foie gras. There was foie gras is I think it's the liver from force-fed ducks, something that's meant to be a delicacy. I could be wrong on what that is exactly, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. So correct me if I'm wrong. And I guess the industry just got scared. So, the meat and dairy industry has massive sway over the government, and a lot of the people in the government and the ministers and I guess people making the decisions, they have also vested interests in the animal agriculture sector. So I guess in the US, many states, I think there's probably 10 states or whatever, started enforcing ag-gag laws, which basically meant that if any type of surveillance is... So it's animal rights activists, a lot of animal rights activists, they'll go out onto factory farms or abattoirs or places like this and obtain footage to use to expose cruelty to animals, which you've probably all seen. If you look at social media, that's where all that footage comes from. It's been on all the news channels. Animals Australia has released a lot of that kind of footage too. Not that they gather it themselves, but they get it from anonymous investigators, I guess you would call them. And the industry's threatened. So they basically, instead of just a trespassing offence or a break and enter offence, they've turned it into a full-blown offence, which is, and in the US, they're actually nearly treating animal rights activists like they're terrorists. And there's quite heavy sentences and fines imposed now, just for something as simple as going onto a farm, taking a photo of an animal and sharing it on social media or exposing that. It doesn't matter whether there's cruelty being inflicted on that animal or not, the activist is the one who will be punished, which is totally unfair. It's exactly the same in Australia as the laws where they try to gag whistleblowers in the immigration sector up at I think Nauru or Manus Island. They basically said that anyone working in those places who exposes any type of cruelty or goes to the media or journalists in relation to the well-being of refugees or asylum seekers could face a prison term. They needed to go to the immigration minister. I think they had to go direct to Peter Dutton or his advisors, and then he would assess what to do with it, which would be nothing because his only interest is getting rid of these people. But when it came to sort of human rights issues and people wanted to stand up for these people, regardless of whether they were meant to be here or not. They were called they were labelled whistleblowers, and then they were told that if you go to the press, you're probably going to end up in jail, which is exactly what they want to do to animal rights activists. So basically, these industries are having sway over the government, trying to get these offences pushed through as being more severe to try and deter people from doing it. And what really upsets me is that you've got neo-Nazis, you've got bikies committing arson and murder all the time, gang-related violence, actual terrorism, like real terrorism going on. You've got school shootings in America, all these kind of things, yet they want to label an animal rights activist who's someone who just gives a shit about animals, who's just going onto a farm. Granted, it might be trespassing, but it doesn't warrant a prison sentence or being labelled as a terrorist. They're only doing that to try and silence the animal rights community. So it just goes to show how much they try to conceal everything that they do. They know that their industry is bad. They know that vegans are gaining traction. They know that the animal rights world is very, very strong at the moment, and the rise in the animal rights movement has been huge. And they'll basically do anything to try and oppose it. I mean, I've talked about this a lot of times on the podcast, just with the advertising campaigns. Since I did the last podcast, just around the corner from my house, the Transport Authority, Transport SA, have put out these new billboards for registration and license plates. And basically, they sort of show that, you can get a license plate for anything. So if you were once into this and now you're into this, you can change your license plate. And the one near my house, coincidentally, says vegan becomes bacon. Basically saying, if you were a vegan for a while and you jumped on that trend, now you can change your number plate to bacon if you're back into that. And I just thought to myself, it's not overly offensive. It just pisses me off more, and it's just so dumb and so low that a government agency would actually stoop to that level to put down a growing a growing movement of people who are caring, compassionate people just to try and sell their products. And it's just because the meat and dairy industry is threatened, has gotten in the government's ear, and they want them to back them up. Hence why the government gives all these industries millions and millions of dollars, dying industries like the dairy industry, trying to get, giving them $500 million to split between the farmers because they can't afford to keep their farms running because the milk manufacturers won't pay them enough per litre. I mean, absolutely ridiculous. There's a hell of a lot of stuff going on that is trying to counter the animal rights movement. But the main thing is we can't be silenced. You can't be scared. You can't be intimidated by these people because this is what they want. And another thing I want to talk about is insiders. There's been a number of, it's happened all the time. It's been in the news as well. There's been a lot of insiders, working within different groups, trying to sort of break apart those kind of communities. And it's happened in Australia. It's happened in South Australia. I know of a few instances and have had a little bit of experience with this kind of thing, with insiders not quite sure whether they're undercover police or whether they're meat and livestock industry just trying to cause problems. But what I want to say to everybody is be careful of who you're dealing with. If you're in a vegan group or an animal rights organisation, be mindful of who's in that organisation, because I can guarantee you not everybody is who they say you are, and some people are there just to cause trouble or just to watch you. And even if you're not doing anything wrong, you don't deserve to be watched. You don't deserve to have everything you say monitored, or have them try and break apart something that is trying to preach compassion and kindness and a more healthy, peaceful world. So just be mindful of that. That's all I'm really going to say on that topic. But they're out there and they do want to silence us. So, and I might come across as paranoid, but I can guarantee you 100% I'm not. So, anyway, they were the sort of main sort of things I wanted to touch base on in regards to industry pressure. Something else I've been doing recently, which I've been really enjoying, is, and you've probably seen it before, is it's very similar to the Anonymous for the Voiceless model, which you've probably seen, which is a massive sort of community of people who go out and do the Earthlings experience in public places, where they stand around and they wear the Anonymous mask and they stand in a cube and they have slaughterhouse footage playing, and then they talk with the public about what they're seeing. And I'm involved in Adelaide with a group called Speak Adelaide, and we essentially do what Anonymous for the Voiceless do, but we're just called Speak Adelaide. And it's run by a mate of mine called Shane, and he does an amazing job. He's got 2 huge, big flat screen TVs, and he's getting 2 more, and a speaker and a nice big battery pack and a couple of big stands to put the TVs on. And he actually plays footage from a short little video of Australian slaughterhouse footage called by Aussie Farms called 1,000 Eyes, and has some very intense music backing that footage. And I've been down a couple of times now, and I'll be back again as regularly as possible, because I really do enjoy talking to the public about it. And as I enjoy talking to anybody about this kind of stuff, I mean, I wish I didn't have to, but I want to talk to people about this kind of stuff because it's so important, and getting in people's faces who have never heard about this, or probably have heard about it, who've never really thought about it in the way that we think about it, is so important. And it's actually really, really useful. And as much as people say, showing people that kind of footage just turns people away, it doesn't. It honestly does not. I guarantee you 100% it does not turn people off. For instance, I think it was Friday night, I was down at the Speak event, and we're in the middle of Rundle Mall. It was the Fringe was on, the Clips was on, so the city is packed. It's nice weather, people are out and about in bars. We went on a Friday night, so we made sure it was busy. We set up, we all got ourselves positioned, and we don't go out and approach people and say, hey, do you want to come watch this? We stand around, and some people will stand around and say nothing. They'll just stand there and hold the signs because maybe they don't want to talk to people. It's not really their thing. But there's 4 or 5 of us that will walk around, and if someone sort of stops to watch the footage, we'll head over and say, hey, have you seen this before? What do you think about that? Are you a vegetarian? Most of them say no. You say, did you know this is Australian industry standard practice? We sort of describe what's going on in the video. This is the pigs in the sow stalls giving birth to their babies, crushing their babies because they roll over onto them. This is chickens in a factory farm. This is that. We just go through everything with them. Some people are so interested they can't believe that this is going on, and they always think, oh, this has got to be from overseas. This can't happen in Australia. I'm like, honestly, this is happening 20 kilometres from you in slaughterhouses around this city. And some people sort of, look at it and go, oh, yeah, that's really bad, isn't it? Sort of walk off. Very rarely you get people angry, because it's sort of hard to be angry about something like... We get compared a little bit to people like preachers. I mean, I don't know if it happens in all cities, but Adelaide, it's quite a religious city and very conservative. And we do get a lot of religious preachers who I find fucking annoying, because they're just preaching about something that they can't prove, and they're telling everyone they're going to go to hell, and they're telling everyone they're sinners and they hate homosexuals and total bullshit. But a few times I've heard people, even friends, compare what we do with Speak Adelaide to the preachers. And I'm like, well, it's nothing like the preachers. I mean, we're not preaching about something that doesn't happen. We're actually saying, check out this footage. This actually happens. Like, look at this. Here's the proof. This is where it actually happens. And if you actually went there, you can see it for yourself. Like, there's no, faith involved. It's 100% truth. And we give people some information, like Vegan Easy booklets, which is just sort of some very easy reading on sort of basic animal rights issues and the welfare of animals in the animal agriculture industry, and some recipes and ways to help the cause, ways to sort of transition to a vegan diet. And we just discuss it with people. And I've had some fantastic, amazing conversations with people who I otherwise wouldn't. People who you wouldn't even think would want to talk to you about it. I had one guy the other day, had a very short conversation with him, but he was really interested. And actually, this has happened a couple of times, but this one particular guy, he used to work in an abattoir, and we asked him, we said, have you killed animals? He said, yeah, I have. And we said, is what we're showing here, is this reality in your eyes? And he goes, yeah, and worse. And he goes, what happens in slaughterhouses is horrific and horrible, and most people wouldn't be able to stand it. And it really made me think, even the people that work in these industries think it's fucked. So, I've never been in a slaughterhouse, but I can imagine how fucking horrible it must be. Unfortunately, some of these people are just doing it because they need a job. They might not necessarily want to do it, but at the same time, I do question people's morals. I would never, ever, ever put money over my morals, ever. I'd rather live in a cardboard box. I would not do that. I would never just harm an animal because someone was paying me to do it and I needed the money. Money is not that important. I know we all need money, and I know people go through a lot of hardship, but there's so many other jobs. Be it clean toilets. I mean, seriously, it's Anyway, it was good to talk to someone who had worked in that industry and actually backed up what we said. Another time, on a previous event, I talked to a farmer, and he said, he doesn't work in slaughterhouses, but he used to sell a lot of animals to slaughterhouses and, to meat manufacturers or whatever. And he said, it is quite sad, and he does know what goes on in slaughterhouses, and what we were showing was real. So he backed it up. But one guy in particular, you do get a lot of satisfaction out of it, because you kind of think, people always say to me with my social media, oh, the way you're doing it's wrong. You're never going to get people to be vegan by showing them all this horrible footage and putting them down and making them feel bad and making them feel guilty. And I say, that's fine. You can think that all you want, but that's not true. I can guarantee the stuff that I share and the stuff I talk about helps people go vegan. Even if they get pissed off at first, they might resist at first, but it will plant a seed, and it won't flourish in everybody, but it will flourish in some. And this one guy the other day, he stood and watched the footage, and I went up and said, are you a vegetarian? He said, no, I'm not. I do eat meat. He goes, but I do know my sister's a vegan. And I said, oh, okay. And I said, so why are you vegetarian? He goes, oh, I've thought about it before, but just never really been pushed to that limit. And I said, what's stopping you, man? I said, all around you here in Adelaide, there's so many amazing vegan restaurants. I said, what area do you live in? And he told me. I said, you got this local store down there that stocks all this amazing vegan food. You could just go there. And I said, what do you like to eat? And he told me. I'm like, get that substitute here. You can get that substitute there. And we just had a Lord of the Fries open up, which has been quite detrimental to my waistline, because I've been there multiple times, sometimes twice on a weekend. And it's for anyone that doesn't know, Lord of the Fries is kind of like vegan McDonald's. It's like a chain of fast food restaurants in Australia. Started in Melbourne, there's some in Sydney, Western Australia. I think there's one up in Brisbane now. And Adelaide just got one. It sells all sorts of burgers and hot dogs and loaded fries and mozzarella sticks and thick shakes. And they used to just be vegetarian / vegan. Now, well, the Adelaide one is completely vegan. So hopefully they all go vegan. But if you've never tried it, or you're coming to Australia, or you've never been to Australia and you're coming here, make sure you find a Lord of the Fries and eat there. Don't eat there too much because you will get fat, but it's delicious. Anyway, I said to this guy, I said, look, you like meat, right? I said, I used to love meat. I used to love the texture of meat. I did. I honestly used to like the texture. I used to like the taste. I didn't really like red meat that much, but chicken and fish, I thought it was delicious. I really did used to like it. I mean, I just grew up learning to like it, but I didn't like where it came from. As I grew to know the facts, I didn't want to eat it anymore. So I said to that guy, look, I get it. I said, but what you should do is, have you had dinner tonight? He said, no, I haven't. I said, walk down there, go to Lord of the Fries and order yourself a burger. I said, I think you should get this burger, get the spicy burger. I think it's a delicious burger. It's got a nice patty. It's a little bit spicy and heaps of flavour. I said, just try it, man, and let me know what you think. I said, even though I never see you again, that's fine. Just think about, think to yourself how great it tastes. So anyway, we had a good chat. And he goes, his friend came over, and I said, he must have just split up. His friend must have gone in separate ways and came over and saw me talking to him, and he joined in the conversation. And he said, yeah, I know about veganism and stuff. He goes, yeah, there's some pretty good food out there. I've had some pretty good vegan food. And he was a pretty staunch guy, like a real gym junkie kind of guy. And he was saying, he liked a lot of vegan food. And I was like, that's cool, man. And I said, well, I just told your friend to go down to Lord of the Fries because, he wants to try it out. And I said, look, just try it, man. Just, if you can, just go meat free just for a month, just to try it. I said, my brother-in-law did that, who I mention all the time on the podcast. And he now he's a full-blown vegetarian, and he goes, I'm going to do it. And he goes, man, have you seen this shit? The stuff that we do to animals, it's so bad. I've never seen this kind of footage. And his mate was like, yeah, it's horrible. So anyway, we kept doing the speaker van, and then we wrapped it all up and packed everything up and walked down to Lord of the Fries. And who was there? He was with his friend smashing a burger. And I said, hey, buddy, what do you think of that? And he was like, oh, mate, it's fucking awesome. I can't believe it. And I said, there you go. I said, man, there's so much good food like this out there, and you can get it everywhere. And honestly, you're not going to miss out on anything if you go vegan. So whether he goes vegan or not, or, maybe talks to his sister who's a vegan, I feel like I planted that seed. He's got to be put off meat. And I really felt very satisfied with that conversation, and had so many other good conversations like that with other people, especially younger people. You find you get a lot of teenagers, a lot of people probably from the ages of sort of 15 through to 20, 22, who they're still kind of finding themselves and who they are as a person, and they always seem to come over and are quite interested. And we also have the virtual reality headsets, which sort of shows the perspective of an animal inside a slaughterhouse, and they sort of want to use it because cool technology, I guess, and sort of interested in what we're doing. And surprisingly, you kind of think kids that age are kind of smart asses, but normally they're pretty cool. They come over and they're interested, and we talk to them about it. And you say you tell a group of 5, and we're talking to a group of 5 of them, and they're kind of one guy's interested, and he's like, yeah, they're like, okay, that's really interesting. The other guys kind of look a bit they're a bit blank-faced. They're not really sort of showing much emotion, or don't really care that much, or a bit bored. At least that one guy might go off and think, I'm going to try and be a vegetarian, And I say to him, it sounds a little bit stupid, but I just say to him, look, you might think of you might think that caring for animals is not cool, or it's not manly, or it's not this. There's such a stigma attached to eating meat and being a man and stuff. And I said, but guys, honestly, I'm a man. I feel manly. But I just love animals, and you can love animals too and just be exactly the same as that. And at the end of the day, you don't really need to be manly. You can be whatever you want. It's just a stupid thing that society tells us we need to be. But, that's how you feel, and you're worried about, being looked at funny by your friends. Don't worry about it. Your friends will think you're cool because you're doing something different. Just do what your heart tells you to do and what you actually think is right. And I mean, if you were really doing what was right, and if you really followed your morals, everyone would eat vegan, because no one actually agrees with what's happening. So many people walk past those screens, and they sit there. They stand there And you can see the expression on their face, like, oh my God, that's horrible. Like, and they know what it's about and where it comes from. They know what we're trying to say. We're basically trying to say, they know that we're trying to tell people that you shouldn't kill animals for food. But most people just ignore it because it's too hard or it's too inconvenient. A lot of people just say convenience is one of the factors that sort of stops them from doing this. But the convenience thing's not really much of an issue anymore. I mean, there's options everywhere. I never struggle to get food. I mean, just today I was in the Adelaide Hills. I stopped in a store and I got a vegan sticky date cookie and a lentil and mushroom pie. There's heaps of other options there too, and that was just from one shop. So, I mean, options everywhere. And I did talk to another group of, there was like 2 young girls who were watching. They were a little bit scared to talk at first, but, I kind of probed them a little bit and sort of, got them talking. And basically, like, they couldn't believe, like, even when I told them what happens in the dairy industry, they just couldn't believe it. They were like, what? That's so horrible. That's so sad. And, I don't expect that they went off and ate a vegan meal like the other guy did, but we had a good 10-minute conversation and they genuinely showed interest and asked a lot of questions, which made me think those girls will go off and think about it. And even if they don't do it now, maybe in 6 months' time or a year's time or the next time, their mum's gone to the supermarket, they might say, hey, mum, can you get me some veggie patties? And the mum will be like, what the fuck you want to eat them? And she'll be like, oh, I just want to try them. And, and then the next thing you know, she's a vegetarian. The next thing you know, she's a vegan. So definitely, if you see Anonymous for the Voiceless, or if you're in Adelaide and you want to join Speak Adelaide, come and get involved. It's really fun. We have great conversation with people. It's a good way to get involved in the animal activist scene, and don't be intimidated. You don't have to talk to people. I definitely get that talking to people and talking about these issues can be a bit intimidating for some people. Honestly, I feel a bit nervous, and nearly every time we go out, I do get a little bit nervous because you never know what sort of like backlash you're going to cop. But to be honest, it doesn't really matter because once you start talking to people, you know the facts and figures, and it's easy. But if you just want to get involved and you just want to stand in the background and wear one of the masks or hold one of the signs, or even just stand around just to have the numbers, because the numbers do make it look a lot more legitimate. So if you want to be involved, come and get involved. And feel free to hit me up if you want any more information or you want some details of how to join the group. But basically, it's as simple as going onto Facebook and looking for Speak Adelaide and joining the group. But just remember, it's all well and good to join a group and say that you're a volunteer for the group or you're an activist, but it really comes down to whether you actually come out and do the hard yards. And there's a lot of people in a lot of groups I've experienced in all sorts of things in Sea Shepherd and Speak Adelaide where there's hundreds, if not thousands of people in the groups, and then when there's an event, 20 people rock up. I mean, if you got to put your money where your mouth is. If you really care about animals and you really want to have your voice heard, come and join and get involved and be active. It's so important. It's so important. So, yeah, they're the sort of 2 things I've been very busy with lately. So another resource I found, which I find super useful, it's called, you might have even heard of it, it's called Plant-Based News, and it's just plantbasednews.org, and it's a UK-based website which has heaps of information on it. I think it's just run by one guy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the case. And he basically just covers things that are happening within the animal rights, plant-based vegan world. All sorts of things from activism on the current stuff he's got up there at the moment is things like the BBC reports on appalling pig conditions. He's got news reporters going into a cage-free egg farm to actually show you what a cage-free egg farm is like and that it's not as good as you think it is. There's a lot of stuff on the Go Vegan World campaigns that are happening around London. I can't remember the name of the girl who runs its sanctuary. It's Eden Sanctuary, if I'm right. I honestly can't remember off the top of my head. But she I don't know if she's just loaded or whatever, because doing this campaign must cost a lot of money, because covering bus stops and billboards and tube stations in London with amazing animal rights signage, things like love animals, stop eating us, or a picture of a chicken that says I'm me, not meat, see the individual, go vegan. Have a look at it. It's called Go Vegan World. Even if you just Google Go Vegan World, you'll see the campaign is so huge. And I mean, it's always great just to see the rise in animal rights awareness. Even in Sydney, I noticed I think it's the New South Wales Vegan Society or the University of New South Wales Vegan Society. They did a bunch of bus campaigns where they had Go Vegan signage on the backs of buses. There has been a lot of that kind of thing with live export buses, especially in Adelaide, had a lot of live export advertising on the backs of buses. But I've heard that I was speaking to Amy yesterday, and she was saying that the Premier of South Australia is actually trying to get that taken off, which again, just another form of concealment, another form of silencing. They know that the live export thing's a massive issue. A lot of people don't like it. And it's actually mind-blowing that people, that the government officials, like, you think we live in a democratic system. We don't. If the majority spoke, there would not be live export, but we keep live export because it's profitable for a few. And your average Australian doesn't want to see animals treated like that, even if they're not vegans. So many people don't agree with live export. And that just goes to show that it should just be banned. It shouldn't even be a question. Yeah, it's still happening. It's been banned in so many other countries. Yeah, we are so backward. Australia is such a backwards country sometimes. We're so conservative. We've got so many weird rules. We're so homophobic. We're so driven by religious ideals. A lot of it's still, all that kind of stuff still taught in schools, and a lot of morals and codes of ethics are all based on Christian values, which, look, if you want to be religious, that's totally fine. It's not for me. I'm an atheist, but and I'm not trying to get onto some sort of rant about anti-religion, but like education and the government shouldn't be run by these kind of things. It should be run on a democratic system based on the majority votes. So yeah. Anyway, there's a lot we'll go into as far as live export and the government lies and whatnot, but I've got a little bit more to cover, so we won't go into that too much this week. But yeah, plant-based news. Check out this website. There's a lot of cool stuff on there. There is actually a film on here which goes for about 35 minutes, and if you just go to the news category activist section, it just says new film showcases the progress the vegan movement has made throughout 2016. I guess it's a recap across 2016. And it's a narrated video that goes for about 35 minutes. It's got a lot of reliable sources that have contributed to it, and a lot of really, really interesting information on there that I actually took a lot of notes when I was watching this, because it was, and I even made a little video based on some of the clips of it, just talking about how it really just goes into how animal rights activists are trying to they're trying to silence them, and how the media kind of sort of fashions what we think and how we perceive things. And we know for a fact that, you know, the media does try and make vegans look stupid. I mean, there's so many advertising campaigns and stuff, as I mentioned before, that, you know, try and make us look like we're idiots or we're stupid or poke fun at us. But then even if you watch news channels, you see the anchors or the people hosting the TV shows kind of like joking about it or giving their opinions on veganism, and it's just like it's kind of cool in a way that it's being mentioned, because veganism is a thing now and animal rights is a threat, or animal rights activists are a threat. But just, the ignorance from some of these people just drives me fucking mad. So anyway, watch this. A bit of an eye-opener, some great information. Again, it's just called, it's just entitled Vegan 2016, and it's under the heading New Film Showcases the Progress the Vegan Movement has made throughout 2016. Check out Plant-Based News. I'm actually getting a lot of my information from there at the moment, so I'm loving it. So I'd highly recommend it. What else did I want to talk about? Yeah, the socially acceptable behaviour within society. It was just the other day. I was walking down over to the gym, and it was, you know, evening about 6:30 at night, and there was like a family just having a barbecue, and I thought they just looked like a nice family. You know, probably think they're doing everything right, think they're nice, good, compassionate people, and yet they're sitting there eating sausages and steak, and the kids are playing, and everyone's having a good time. And they probably are nice people, but what they're doing is the total opposite of being nice, and it's total opposite of being compassionate and kind, and yet they're letting their kids do it. And it just blows my mind of this disconnect that people have who just go through life preaching about being a good person, yet their actions are proving otherwise. And it's hard because people just don't know. It's the way we've been brought up. People are indoctrinated to think that doing this is okay. Oh, that's okay. No, everyone else does that. That's okay. But never actually really thought about what it is they're doing. Never actually thought about that sausage on the barbecue or that piece of lamb chop in the supermarket shelf was actually an animal who wanted to live once. And now you're sitting there feeding it to your family on a summer's night thinking life's great. I mean, and I see it all the time. I get so frustrated because I think, that person's such a nice person, yet they do this, and I can't condone that. I'm always going to oppose that, and that's always going to be awkward, and it's always going to cause confrontation. And I have a hard time. I can't if I sit down with someone who's eating meat, in my head, I always think, and if any of my meat eater friends are listening to this, yes, I do sit there and think about who that was on your plate, and it bothers me, and it upsets me that you're eating it, and it upsets me that you don't care that you're eating it, or you actually haven't thought about who or what you're eating. And you just see it everywhere, and it's such a bum out. It's very, very hard to be positive about the human race when you're so invested in animal rights. I always used to think I was a really positive person. I try always to see the positive side of things, and I do like life. There's so many beautiful things about life. I love rainy days. I love being out in nature and going for hikes. I love looking at all the different animals when you're out and about. I love having a good time with my fiance and my friends. I love my family. There's so many amazing things about life, and I love life, but I really hate what the human race, and I hate how the human race operates and how we think. And I just, I know it's not possible. No one's ever going to think or feel the same. But to get I just wish more people would be a little bit more in touch with their morals. And when you are doing, you're trying to teach your kids, this family who's having the barbecue down at the on the river that I was talking about, thinking they're a great, nice, fantastic family. Think about what it's teaching your kids and how it's setting your kids up to be, and what sort of people they're going to be because of the way that, not just feeding them meat, just all sorts of things. Just because something's, I learnt this recently. I've just recently started uni, and I'm doing a business degree, and I'm doing law at the moment, and it basically said, laws are made up of, laws are just made up, and then but just because they're a law doesn't necessarily, there's law and there's ethics, and just because something is made into a law doesn't always mean it's ethical or right, and just because something's ethical or right doesn't mean it's going to be legal. So, there's it can get very, very difficult, and people need to think about what they're doing for themselves, not based on what they've been taught. And that can be very, very difficult, because when you get to be, if you've never thought about animal rights before, and the first time you hear about it is when you're 40 years old, it's very, very hard to sort of go, oh yeah, no, I get that. You'd probably oppose it at first because you think, no, this is fine, everyone else does it. But when I know it takes a very strong mind and a very strong person to actually say no, actually to challenge what we know. And I guess that's what everyone who is a vegan has done, and I'm proud of everyone that is able to do that. It's difficult, and anyway, it was just that disconnect that I see people having all the time. You see these nice old ladies in the supermarket just looking at the meat section. I just think, what are you doing? Don't you know? They actually probably don't know or have never thought about it. And I know there's people out there that do know and they don't give a fuck, and they're just mean, horrible people I don't really want much to do with. But there's nice people out there who just have no idea. We need to educate them. We need to keep the pressure up. The pressure is important. And going back to the industry pressure that I was talking about, we can't let that scare us. And the thing I was talking about with the insiders or the infiltrators from whatever sort of organisation they're from, do not let them intimidate you, because that's what they want. They want to break us apart. They want to scare us enough to stop what we're doing and to stop this awareness. Yet we can't stop it. If we stop, we're betraying the animals. So keep up the pressure. Everybody needs to keep up the pressure. And one other thing that's sort of happened recently, one of my friends, she was over in Taiji in Japan, and if you don't know about Taiji, that's where the cove is. There was a film made about it, about where they round up dolphins into the cove and they slaughter a lot of them for dolphin meat, and also select a lot of them for captivity. So they sell them off to different companies and establishments who have marine parks or animals in captivity for entertainment purposes. And I just wanted to mention, I have been involved with Sea Shepherd for a couple of years now. Probably not so much in the last 6 months, and I probably talk more about land animals, probably because there's sort of, it's in my face a little bit more. You see animal trucks and going up to Freedom Hill Sanctuary a lot. That definitely sort of, you get that connection to these animals, but we can't forget about the marine animals. You know, there's still fantastic organisations out there like Sea Shepherd still doing great things for marine animals. These animals we don't see because they're under the water, but some of them are so intelligent and so smart. And we, like fish, we still need to pay attention to animals like fish, and we shouldn't be condoning any animal cruelty, and especially on beautiful beings like dolphins. In Taiji, this season, they killed 595 dolphins and they stole 232. So 232 dolphins are going to be taken away and put into captivity, into small pools, and they're going to be forced to entertain people. And one of the saddest stories I heard was they captured a whole pod of dolphins. They slaughtered the whole family, and there was a baby there, and they took the baby back out to sea and just dumped him. They didn't harm it, they just dumped the baby out there. Now you have to think, that baby relied on its mother for food, that baby relied on its mother to grow and to be taught how to do things. Now it's out in the open ocean by itself with nobody. That's how awful these types of things are. And this happens every year in Taiji, and there's always people out there. Sea Shepherd used to have a big presence out there. They still have a little bit of a presence. They can't do a lot because they are monitored by the police the whole time they're there, and followed by the police the whole time they're there. There's another group called the Cove Guardians, who have been out there relentlessly for years and years. And I've actually got a couple of friends who are Cove Guardians who I am going to have on the podcast at some time to talk about it, so we can do an entire episode on marine life and on dolphins and whales, and the things that some of these groups are doing to try and protect marine life. So if you haven't ever looked into it, do a bit of research on Taiji and see what they're actually doing there, or just watch the film The Cove. It's a little bit tough to watch, but it's not as brutal as a lot of the stuff you see on social media, and I think you will be able to watch it. Another really important thing is, if you're ever planning on going somewhere like SeaWorld or a marine park or anywhere that has animals performing for you, or animals who are meant to be in the wild, like zoos, anywhere, if animals are meant to be in the wild and they're in a cage, you shouldn't be supporting it. I would never ever support a zoo. I don't care about what they say they do for conservation. I don't care about what they do for rehabilitation. I feel like half the time zoos are government funded anyway. Sure, there's probably a lot of private ones, but these places, they do not need to exist to exhibit animals. If they really care about rescue and rehabilitation, there should be places where the animals come in, they rehabilitate them, then they put them back out into the wild. They shouldn't be forced to live there for years and years and years just to make money, to entertain people and hide it under the disguise of education. I guess a lot of zoos are big on education. But anyway, I would never, ever support those kinds of establishments, and I don't think you should either. That's about it so far. I got a lot of stuff in the works planned. I've got a few interviews teed up for future episodes. Again, if you've got any questions you want answered, if you've got any information that might help me, or anything that you might want me to discuss on the podcast, feel free to get in touch. Feel free to question, criticize, debate with me. Feel free to email me at theveganalliance618@gmail.com. You can hit me up on Instagram or Facebook. I do have a Twitter, but I don't really use it. I don't really like Twitter. And I've got enough social media. I don't need another one. Thanks so much for listening. I'm really trying to do these podcasts a little more often than not, but it can get a little bit difficult because I do work, I do uni, I do a lot of volunteering, a lot of activism, so I sort of squeeze it in when I can. So if you got any feedback for me, hit me up. Thanks again so much for listening. The listens on the podcast have been getting up around the 500 mark, which I'm mind blown about. It's so cool that 500 people want to listen to me talk. I'm not even that good. Like, I am and are, and I, sometimes I feel like I might rave on a little bit, but I hope people get some information out of these podcasts. I hope you gain a little bit of inspiration. The main thing I want to do is just help people know that you don't need to be afraid to fight for this kind of thing. And there's going to be so much backlash and there's going to be so much pressure from the other side. But if we stand together and we stand strong, we can move this whole thing forward, and it's gaining so much traction. We need to keep it going. Everybody needs to step up. If you've never been active before, start thinking about it. It's so important, it's liberating, and I would recommend it to everybody. So anyway, I'll see you next time for episode 10. Thanks again for tuning in. This has been the Vegan Alliance podcast. Have a great day.